Hi friends, in the previous video I talked about the evolution of the transportation. In this video I'll be explaining about the basics of a simple truck, how a simple truck is built and which are all the components fitted in the truck at various places and what is their function. Friends, in the previous video I told about the evolution of the transportation. This video we'll have a brief look about a simple truck which is used for the transportation, how it is built, which are the critical components of the truck and what job they do. First, what is meant by an automobile? Auto means self, means on its own. Mobile means moving. A machine which moves on its own is called an automobile. Let it be our car, our bus, truck, and what are the vehicles move on the roads, on the surface with their own power are called the automobiles. For easy understanding how a vehicle move on its own, I'll brief you about the layout of a simple truck which we commonly use for the transportation of the goods. See this figure. This is having many components. This rectangle shape one, which is called the chassis. Then so many other components like engine, clutch, gearbox, propeller shaft, etc. all are fitted in the chassis at their respective places. What is chassis? Chassis is a load-bearing framework made of steel. This one is the chassis. In other words, simply speaking, it is like a bone framework, that is skeleton in a human body, which holds all the organs in the human body at their respective places. Same way, chassis also holds all the critical components required to move the vehicle on its own. Chassis also supports the driver cabin, passenger cabin, and also it holds the controlling mechanism like steering, brakes and all. Now the chassis looks like this. Same chassis can be used for the truck, goods carrying truck, and also for the passenger bus as well. We'll see one by one about the critical component. The first component is the power generating device, that is the engine. The first and foremost component is the engine fitted in front of the chassis. Of course, in some of the buses you can see the engine is fitted in the rear side also. And let us think about the commonly used truck. The engine, a power generating device fitted in the front side of the chassis, and in front of the engine there is a radiator which is used to dissipate the heat from the engine. Generally, 4-stroke diesel engines are fitted in the trucks. The next component is the clutch. This one is the clutch. Clutch, when you dismantle, one type of clutch looks like this. This device is used for the momentary disengagement of the power from engine to the gearbox. For momentary disengagement. Otherwise, normally it will be in continuous engagement. When you depress the clutch, the power is momentarily disconnected so that you can change the gears in the gearbox. Another component is called the gearbox. This is the gearbox next to the clutch. When you open this top cover of the gearbox, one type of the gearbox looks like this. This is the synchromesh gearbox, which is widely used in the majority of the trucks and buses. The purpose of this gearbox is to vary the torque. Torque is nothing but the turning effort. To vary the torque according to the driving conditions. Means if you want to move the vehicle from rest position, it requires lot of amount of torque to move a vehicle from the rest position. Once it started moving, the amount of the torque requirement will come down. So to move the vehicle from the rest position, you need the high torque. Same way, when you are driving on the steeper gradients or the gradient roads, you need more torque. Suppose you are traveling on the plain roads or the down gradient, you need the less torque. So according to the driving conditions or the road conditions, to vary the torque, this gearbox is provided in the vehicle. Then after the gearbox, this device is called the propeller shaft. This is the propeller shaft. From gearbox to differential. This is a long steel tube made of two pieces connecting the gearbox with the differential. Why it is made into two pieces? Because there is a slip joint arranged between the two pieces. The purpose of this propeller shaft is to transfer the mechanical drive from the gearbox output to the differential input. Why this slip joint is provided? The axis of the gearbox is always higher than the axis of the differential because the differential will be lower height than the gearbox. That is point number one. Point number two, when we are driving the vehicle, because of the road conditions, these wheels take up and down motions. So when the wheels are taking up and down movement because of the road conditions, the distance between these two points will vary, either shortens or lengthens. To accommodate that varying length, varying distance between these two center points, a slip joint is provided so that it can slide inside like this. One member can slide inside like this depending on the vary of the distance. And other component fitted to the propeller shaft is called the universal joint. There are two universal joints are fitted to the propeller shaft, one at each end. One end at the differential side, the other end at the gearbox side. If the propeller shaft is too lengthy, you can see it is divided into two propeller shaft. In between there will be one more universal joints. Let us, for simple understanding, let us assume it is with only one propeller shaft and each propeller shaft is fitted with the two universal joint, one at each end. The purpose of this universal joint is to give the flexibility in the drive. See this cross which is arranged inside the bearings. This can move like this. This can also move like this. Why it is provided? Here the drive is transmitted between the components of different axes. Suppose the gearbox axis is somewhere here, the differential will be at lower level than the gearbox in the vehicle. So differential axis will be somewhere here. So to transmit the power between the components of two different axes, these universal joints are fitted to the propeller shaft. How these universal joints are going to work, I will explain you in detail in the coming videos. I am going to explain you about each and every component in detail in the coming videos. Now the drive has come from engine to gearbox, from engine to propeller shaft, then to the differential. What job the differential does? The differential inside this housing looks like this. Various parts are there. This is the propeller shaft. This is the differential unit. The differential does two jobs mainly. Number one job, whatever the drive coming in this direction distributes to the right angles. like this. So distribution of power in the right angle direction. These are the axle shafts connected to the wheels. So drive is distributed in the right angles. That is the job number 1. The job number 2 is whenever the vehicle negotiates a turning. If you turn the vehicle, what happens? The inner wheel has to cover less distance compared to the outer wheel. Then only turning takes place. So the inner wheel of the vehicle, suppose you are taking the right turn, these wheels have to rotate at lesser speed and this wheel has to rotate at comparatively higher speed. So to maintain, to create this difference of speeds between the inner and outer wheels during negotiating a turning, the differential does that job. So differential creates the differential speed between the inner and outer wheel. That mechanism I will explain you in the coming video. After the differential, then the axle housing. This is the axle housing. Axle cum differential housing. In this housing, this differential is fitted. In this housing, the axle shafts are fitted. This front wheel is the front axle, which is here, where the front wheels are fitted. Then after the axle housing, the axle shafts will be there inside. These are the axle shafts. One is this side and one is this side. One end of the axle shaft is mounted with the differential. The other end of the axle shaft is mounted to the wheels. And the wheels are fitted with the tires which are in contact with the ground to move the vehicle. Axle shafts are over, wheels are over. Next, the controlling devices. This is the steering wheel. This complete linkage is the steering mechanism. This is to negotiate the turn depending upon the road conditions. So this is the steering mechanism, looks like this. And the next one is either to slow down the vehicle or to stop the vehicle depending on the driving conditions. The brakes are provided to all the wheels. This is about the brakes. And the steering and brakes and operation the clutch, operation the gearbox, everything is under the control of the driver. In addition to these components, the suspension mechanism also is provided for all the wheels. Why the suspension mechanism? Because the roads are normally having lot of undulations, up and downs, rough surface, etc., etc. So in that scenario, vehicle will take so many shocks during the driving. To absorb that vibrations or shocks, suspension mechanism is provided with each and every wheel. If there is no any suspension mechanism, vehicle chassis or the metallic components links fitted to the vehicle are going to crack or break. Not only to the vehicle, even it is not safe for the driver or the passengers traveling in the vehicle. The same type of chassis can be used to build the bus body, seats, etc., etc. And apart from the components shown in this video, chassis also is having a cabin to sit the driver seat, and also the levers to operate the gearbox, accelerator, clutch, brake, steering, etc., etc. Everything is accommodated inside the cabin. This is about the layout of the simple truck. We will see in detail about each and every component in the coming videos. Notes, in case you have these, please contact me through the email. Please do subscribe and ask your friends also to subscribe to this channel.